You've been told your hands are tools. That's the lie. They are transmitters of force, of thought, of will, of spirit. From the moment you could hold a crayon or reach for your mother's hand, the world began shaping how you'd use them. Write neatly, sit still, fold your hands. Raise them only when you have permission. They taught you that your hands are instruments of obedience, never instruments of power. But that's only because they understood something you didn't. Your hands are a code, a language, a current of energy that doesn't just reflect your inner state, it creates it. The ancient ones knew this. Yogis, healers, mystics. They didn't raise their hands to ask permission. They raised them to command energy, to realign intention, to heal, to connect, to direct the unseen forces around them. Somewhere along the way you forgot, or more accurately, you were made to forget. Now it's time to remember. Long before textbooks, laboratories, and printed languages, there were hands, open, precise, intentional. Ancient mystics didn't need wires or machinery to manipulate energy. They had already discovered the most advanced tools of transformation, embedded not in stone or circuitry, but in their own flesh. They understood what most of us were never told, that your hands are conductors of energy, capable of directing thoughts, amplifying intentions, and healing the body, not metaphorically, but physically, neurologically, and spiritually. In the ancient texts of the Upanishads, the Charanda Samhita, and the Tantra Shastra, we find the earliest references to mudras, sacred hand gestures used to channel energy and unlock specific states of consciousness. These weren't abstract symbols. They were blueprints. Every angle of the finger, every connection of thumb to tip, served a specific energetic purpose. These mudras were rituals, yes, but they were also mechanisms, interfaces between the internal world and the energetic field that surrounds and responds to us. When yogis formed a Gyan mudra, thumb to index finger, the other three fingers extended, they weren't just posing for spiritual aesthetics. They were connecting intention with insight. They were signaling clarity to the nervous system and awakening stillness in the mind. But we lost this, or rather we were guided away from it. In a world of swiping, tapping, scrolling, and grasping, our hands became tools for consumption, not intention. The same hands that once opened portals are now opening apps. And yet the code remains, buried beneath cultural noise and digital distractions, waiting to be remembered, waiting to be used. Pranam mudra, Anjali mudra, Apana, Shuni, Dhyana, each with its own function, its own frequency, some to calm, some to energize, some to cleanse or focus or connect. You don't need to believe in mysticism to experience their effects. Modern neuroscience now supports what the ancients always knew. Hand gestures influence brain function. They stimulate neural pathways, redirect attention, and activate internal feedback loops that can shift not just mood, but physiology. The mind responds to form, the body listens to the hand. This isn't about superstition. It's about recalibrating your relationship with something you've used every day without knowing what it's really for. Your hands are more than extensions of your arms. They are extensions of your consciousness. And they carry memory, intention, and energy. When you use them unconsciously, they leak power. But when you use them with awareness, they become conductors. Some truths are too old and too powerful to fully explain here. We share what can't be said on YouTube inside our free newsletter, Insights Academy. You'll also get a free digital copy of the Kybalion for a limited time only. Links in the description. There's a reason why spiritual leaders, warriors, and ancient healers all use specific gestures. Not because they were pretty, because they worked. These patterns, these codes, they shape fields of energy, influence hormonal signals, anchor thoughts into the body. We speak of manifestation as if it's all in the mind, but thought without physical alignment is noise. Gesture is how thought becomes form. Your fingers are not random. Your palms are not passive. The space between your hands is not empty. It's alive, and once you learn to shape it, you stop leaving your energy to chance. You stop grasping for clarity and start forming it. You stop hoping for change and start channeling it, because your hands were never meant to be idle. They were meant to create. Every time you move your hands, you're speaking, not with words, but with energy. And whether you realize it or not, something, someone is always listening. The body listens, the mind listens, the field around you listens. Your hands, in their positioning, their motion, their stillness, are broadcasting signals constantly. But the problem is, no one ever taught you the language. When a yogi forms a mudra, they're not just shaping their fingers, they're completing a circuit. The fingers become conduits, connecting electrical signals in the body with the intentions of the mind. The body isn't just biological, it's electrical. You are made of energy, surrounded by energy, pulsing with energy. The hands are not just extensions of the body, they're regulators of the flow. And that flow, when misaligned or unconscious, becomes chaos, anxiety, fatigue, confusion. But when aligned, it becomes precision, calm, magnetism, flow. Think about it. Every major ritual you've seen in religion or ceremony involves the hands. Prayer hands, open palms, hand over heart, hands raised to the sky. From Catholicism to Hinduism, from Buddhist monks to Islamic sujood, the positioning of the hands is never accidental. The act of placing your hands in a specific formation has always been a symbolic and energetic declaration. The hands tell the system, internal and external, what state you're choosing. Reverence, surrender, receiving, offering, focus. Even in your everyday life, your hands are constantly participating in rituals. You greet with a handshake, a universal sign of peace and non-aggression. You raise your hand to speak. You wave to signal presence. You place your hand on your chest when you say, I. All of this was inherited, but you were never taught to use it with intention. The rituals survived. The awareness did not. And in that gap between gesture and meaning, power leaks. You scroll endlessly with the same hands that were once used to shape breath and bring focus. You grip the steering wheel, clench your fists, fidget, tap, swipe, grasp. Most of your hand movements today are reactive, not intentional. They respond to stress, distraction, boredom. They are not instruments of choice, but of conditioning. This is not a mistake. This is by design. When you're trained to use your hands only for consumption and productivity, never for stillness, never for energy, you're being trained to live externally, to forget that these tools were once portals. Your hands have become extensions of technology, of capitalism, of busyness, but not of you, not of your inner world, not of your sovereignty. The ancient sages weren't concerned with aesthetics. Their gestures weren't about spirituality for the sake of appearance. They were engineers of energy. They knew that different finger combinations connected different meridians, pathways of energy that linked organs to thoughts, emotions to breath, spirit to body. When they touched thumb to ring finger, they weren't guessing. They were awakening prana, life force. When they held their palms down during meditation, they weren't being polite. They were grounding into their subconscious. And here's the twist. Even if you don't believe in any of this, your hands are still talking, still signaling, still sending energy out, receiving energy back. Whether you're aware of it or not, the circuit is alive. And if you don't learn to direct it, someone else already is. Because energy doesn't disappear. It gets rerouted, it gets absorbed, it gets hijacked. When your gestures are unconscious, you become a transmitter without control, broadcasting anxiety, pulling in distraction, reinforcing beliefs that aren't even yours. But when you choose your gestures, when you move with presence, when you form the code with intention, you become magnetic, resonant, tuned in to something ancient and intelligent that's been waiting for you to remember it. The circuit is always on. The question is, are you finally ready to take control of the signal? There's a reason the number 3 appears everywhere. In ancient symbols, in spiritual doctrine, in architecture, geometry, religion, the Holy Trinity, the 3 pyramids of Giza, the triple goddess, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, mind, body, spirit. It's not a coincidence. It's not superstition. It's the law. The law of three is the foundation of all things: creation, transformation, manifestation. And when the ancients spoke of this trinity, they weren't just talking in metaphor. They were pointing to something very real, very practical, and very powerful: alignment. Hermes Trismegistus, thrice great Hermes, was revered as the master of the three planes of existence: mental, physical, and spiritual, not separately, but together, in union. Because power isn't just in thought, it's in the resonance created when thought, form, and spirit move in harmony. That's the Trinity. And your hands, when used with awareness, are the tool that binds them. The mind sets the direction, the body forms the gesture, the spirit fuels the current. When all three are aligned, your hands become more than flesh. They become instruments of manifestation. This is why mudras weren't invented for beauty or ritual alone. They were mechanical, energetic, and metaphysical switches. A thumb pressed to a fingertip isn't just posture. It's a command. It tells the nervous system to enter a new state. It shapes energy with the same precision a conductor shapes sound. It activates something beneath thought, beneath words, and brings it into form. But when these three planes are out of sync, when the mind says one thing, the body does another, and the spirit is left behind, you become fragmented. You lose coherence. You become scattered energy. And scattered energy is weak. It's noisy. It can't pierce through resistance or attract the things you say you want. Because without alignment, intention is just wishful thinking. Look at how people move through the world, speaking words they don't mean, smiling with eyes full of exhaustion, holding their hands in ways that betray their own discomfort. Their bodies scream what their mouths won't admit. And it's not just awkward. It's dangerous. Because the universe doesn't respond to what you say. It responds to what you are, what you hold, what you radiate. And what you radiate flows through the hands. When you gesture in anger while trying to speak in peace, the energy is distorted. When you pray with hands that are clenched with fear, the signal is scrambled. When you set goals but your actions tell a different story, the current gets blocked. That's why Hermetic teachings insisted on congruence. Not just thinking positive thoughts, but forming a life that reflects them, physically, emotionally, energetically. The hands are the key to this congruence. They don't lie. They reveal your internal alignment or the lack of it. They anchor your intention in the physical world, and when used correctly, they become the bridge between your desire and its manifestation. They are how the invisible becomes visible, how thought becomes reality. Imagine this: the mind visualizes peace. The breath slows. The hands rest in a mudra of receptivity. You hold the shape holds you. The nervous system calms, the thoughts sharpen, the space around you shifts. That's not magic, that's coherence. And coherence creates power. Not power over others, but power over the fog, the doubt, the fear, the noise of a world that constantly tries to scatter your attention. The world wants you fragmented because fragmented people are easy to sell to, easy to control, easy to predict. But aligned people, they move differently. They manifest quickly. They see through illusions. They become sovereign. And the gateway to that alignment, to that sovereignty, begins with the smallest choice: what you do with your hands. Most people don't fail to manifest because they don't want it enough. They fail because their energy is incoherent. Their intentions are split. Their mind is reaching, but their body is resisting. Their words speak one reality, while their actions live another. And at the center of this misalignment, unnoticed and often ignored, are their hands, broadcasting frequencies that contradict the very outcomes they crave. Every time you reach for something, speak about a dream, or sit down to create, your hands are involved. But if they're moving out of habit, not awareness, they become agents of noise. You cannot speak power while your hands fidget with doubt. You cannot embody presence when your fingers tremble with anxiety. The hands do not just follow thought, they amplify it, distort it, or ground it. And most people walk through life unknowingly using their hands to reinforce the very energetic patterns they claim they're trying to escape. Intention is not a fleeting thought. It's not something you scribble on a sticky note and hope for. Intention is a frequency. It's a choice that must run through every layer of your being, your mind, your nervous system, your breath, and yes, your hands. It's why ancient rituals placed so much importance on how things were done, not just what was done. The placement of the hands during prayer, meditation, offerings, blessings, it was precise, intentional, sacred, because the wise knew something we've forgotten. Form shapes energy. Movement creates vibration. Posture speaks louder than affirmation. Try holding your hands open, palms facing the sky. Breathe. Notice the shift, a softening, a sense of receptivity. You've just entered a state of receiving. Not metaphorically, literally. Your nervous system adapts. Your focus sharpens. You are now open, not just emotionally, but energetically. Now flip your palms down. Feel the grounding, the centering, the quiet strength. Now press your hands together at the heart. There's a reason this posture exists across religions and cultures. It signals balance, unity, prayer, peace. These aren't cute gestures. They're energetic signatures. They carry weight. They form the electromagnetic field that surrounds your body and influences what enters or exits your awareness. When you eat, when you speak, when you touch another human being, your energy flows through the hands first. They are the first to extend, the first to defend, the first to connect. And when you use them unconsciously, you create contradiction. Contradiction is chaos. It's what happens when you say you want peace, but your body prepares for war. When you want connection, but your posture screams withdrawal. When you meditate to find clarity, but sit clenched and guarded. The universe is not confused. You are. And it's your energy that gives it instructions. So you wonder why the manifestations don't land, why the same cycles repeat, why intention feels hollow. Look down. Where are your hands when you speak about what you want? Are they open? Are they aligned? Or are they performing a different ritual entirely? The body doesn't lie. The hands don't lie. They are the final translator of what you actually believe. That's why healing doesn't begin with ideas. It begins with embodiment. You cannot override the energetic code with words alone. You have to live it, breathe it, gesture it. Intention must not just be felt, it must be shaped. Because you don't manifest what you want, you manifest what you are. And what you are is constantly being written, sculpted, and broadcast through your hands. From the very start, you were taught to sit on your hands, to keep them still, to not touch, not reach, not disrupt. Fold them neatly on your desk. Keep them visible but motionless. Don't fidget. Don't gesture too much when you speak. These rules weren't about manners, they were about control. You weren't just learning etiquette. You were being conditioned to disassociate from one of your most ancient tools of awareness. The education system doesn't teach you how to use your energy. It teaches you how to suppress it. The structure is the same everywhere. Sit in straight rows, hands to yourself. Raise one hand to speak, use the other to take notes. The hand that reaches becomes the hand that writes, types, and signs, but never the hand that channels. Never the hand that listens. You were trained to associate your hands with obedience and output, not creativity or consciousness. Then came technology. The screen took over where the classroom left off. Your hands, once shaped by gesture, became shaped by function. Tap, swipe, scroll, repeat. What once created rituals now creates dopamine loops. The hands have been reduced to instruments of interaction, input, and output mechanisms in a digital system that thrives on distraction. But what's really being lost is touch. Not just physical contact, but the inner sensation of connection to your body, to your breath, to your own presence. Look around. People touch their phones more than they touch the earth, more than they touch other humans, more than they touch themselves with awareness. And yet, they wonder, why they feel numb, why they're always tired, why anxiety creeps in like static electricity at the edges of every quiet moment. It's not a mystery. It's a disconnection. You were never meant to live life only from the neck up. The mind was never designed to carry everything alone. The body was meant to help. The hands were meant to guide. But that's dangerous to the system, because when people are aware of their energy, they become difficult to manipulate. They stop reacting automatically. They stop reaching for false comfort. They start recognizing when their instincts don't match their environment. Awareness is a threat, so the system encourages noise, busyness, consumption. And in the background, the hands fall into unconscious habits, gripping, clicking, refreshing, repeating. You think you're relaxing, but your fingers are still moving. You think you're resting, but your nervous system never stops scanning. Your hands keep sending signals, but none of them are intentional. This creates energetic static. It clouds your field. It disrupts your intuition. You can't hear the whispers of your body when your fingers are shouting for stimulation. And yet, all of this can be reversed. You weren't born disconnected. You were trained to be. That means you can unlearn it. Reawaken what was dulled. The first step isn't big or dramatic. It's remembering. Remembering that every gesture is a choice. Every posture is a program. Every touch is a transmission. The question is, whose program are you running? Is it yours or the one they handed you? You'll know by how you feel when you place your hands together in stillness. Not in reaction, not in distraction, but in awareness. When you do that, the noise starts to fall away. And underneath the silence, your own power begins to return. Before you ever spoke a word, your body spoke for you. Long before you learned to form sentences, you reached out instinctively, curled your fingers in, grasped for safety, pushed away what felt wrong. That wasn't just physical behavior. It was your first language. A language of energy, sensation, and intuition. A language that didn't require thought, only presence. And your hands were fluent in it. They knew what to do. But over time, that language was replaced by noise, structure, scripts. You were taught to listen outward instead of inward, to wait for permission instead of following instinct, to measure your worth by output, not awareness. Now, most people live in a permanent state of disconnection. They live in their heads, trying to solve problems their bodies already have answers to. They chase clarity with their minds while their nervous systems scream for attention. But the body whispers, the hands whisper, and if you never learn to listen to those whispers, you mistake them for noise, for stress, for distraction, when in truth, they are the beginning of every breakthrough you've been waiting for. Reconnecting with the hands is not about aesthetics. It's not about spiritual posturing. It's about regaining access to your own energetic dashboard. Because when the body starts to speak again, and the hands begin to listen, you gain access to a deeper intelligence, the one that knows when something feels off before the logic catches up, the one that senses when you're out of alignment, long before life forces you to pay attention. Start small. Notice your hands in silence. Are they tense, cold, restless? Are they open or clenched, still or twitching? These are not surface-level sensations. They are indicators. Your nervous system is not random. Your energy doesn't move without a story. Every twitch, every sensation, every subtle shift is a line of dialogue between the inner and the outer. And the more fluent you become in this language, the less you rely on external validation to tell you how you feel. When your hands rest palms up, your body is in a receiving state. When your fingers interlace and tighten, you're unconsciously preparing for tension. When you place one hand on your heart and breathe, the body interprets it as safety. These are not guesses. They are responses hardwired through thousands of years of evolution, ritual, and energetic memory. And when you reconnect with them, you begin to reclaim something this world desperately tries to steal from you, your own sensitivity. Because sensitivity is not weakness. It is information. It is depth. It is power. The more sensitive you become to your own energetic language, the harder it becomes for manipulation to take hold. You spot false urgency. You resist unnecessary conflict. You feel the pull of alignment before the world tells you what's profitable or acceptable or strategic. You move in flow, not fear, and the hands become the first to show you the way. We often think of intuition as some lofty inner voice, buried deep in thought. But more often than not, it's physical. It's felt through the gut, the breath, the fingertips. Intuition lives in the moment your hand hovers before touching something that feels wrong. It's in the delay before you shake someone's hand and feel that something's off. It's in the warmth that spreads through your palms when you speak a truth that resonates, or the coldness that follows a lie you just tried to convince yourself was real. Your body knows. Your hands know. And all that's required is to stop overriding them, to stop assuming that only the mind holds intelligence. Because the hands were never stupid instruments, they were sacred messengers. They carry the stories your mouth doesn't know how to tell. They reveal the truths your mind has tried to suppress. And when you reconnect to them, not only does clarity return, so does direction. You don't need more advice. You need reconnection. Reconnection to the part of you that's been trying to get your attention for years. It's not out there. It's right here, in your own two hands. You don't need a monastery to change your life. You don't need a mountain, a mantra, or a spiritual guru. You need a practice, a ritual, a return to the small, intentional moments that realign your energy and remind your nervous system who's in charge. The truth is, every day, you are already performing rituals. The way you check your phone the moment you wake up. The way your hands reach for caffeine before your body has even asked for fuel. The way you scroll with your thumb like it's second nature. These are rituals too, just unconscious ones. And every ritual trains your energy field, whether you mean to or not. So what happens when you flip that switch? When you stop acting from compulsion and start acting with intention? Your energy shifts. Your attention becomes magnetic. Your presence becomes unmistakable. And it doesn't take hours of practice. It takes consistency. It takes a few moments each day to declare to your system, your field, and your reality, this is who I am becoming. There are hand positions that unlock this shift. Ancient ones, practiced in silence by yogis, mystics, and healers. Not as superstition, but as sacred circuitry. And when paired with breath, awareness, and emotional clarity, they become keys to reprogram the space around you and the space within. There is the gesture of receiving, palms open, fingers soft, resting upwards on your lap or at your sides. This isn't just a sign of openness, it's an act of trust. It tells the body to lower its guard, to stop gripping, to allow. You cannot receive what you are resisting. And most people live their lives clenched, wondering why nothing flows. Open hands are not passive, they are powerful. They say, I am ready, I am here, I am clear enough to hold what comes. Then there is the gesture of creation, palms facing downward, either resting on the lap, placed firmly on a surface, or extended outwards. This is grounding, anchoring. When your thoughts are spiraling, when your emotions feel like they're escaping you, placing your hands downwards is a silent command to return, to build, to stabilize. You aren't lost, you're scattered. And this is how you gather yourself again. And then, the gesture of unification, Anjali Mudra, palms pressed together at the heart, a universal symbol of reverence, prayer, respect, but also alignment. Left and right, feminine and masculine, giving and receiving, mind and heart. The moment your hands meet at the center of your chest, your energy follows. You become whole again. It's not ceremony for the sake of appearance, it's integration, and it carries weight, even if you don't yet understand why. You don't need to be perfect to start. You don't need to know the names of every mudra or the chakras they influence. You just need to begin, to choose presence over reaction, stillness over noise, to take one moment every morning, one breath every evening, to remind yourself that your energy is not random, it's programmable. And you are the programmer. The world wants you to forget this. It wants you reactive, drifting, caught in a loop of distraction and desire. But a simple gesture, done with sincerity, can pull you back to yourself faster than any affirmation or motivational video ever will. Because it doesn't just change your mindset, it changes your frequency. This is the power of daily energetic ritual. Not for performance, not for aesthetic, but for realignment, for truth, for remembering. You were never meant to live scattered. You were meant to live directed, magnetic, clear. And it starts, not tomorrow, not in some distant future, but in the next breath, the next moment, the next choice to place your hands, consciously, back into the field of your becoming. Energy is never neutral. It's always moving, always responding, always being shaped, either by you or by something else. And when you don't consciously direct it, it doesn't just sit idle. It gets hijacked, leaked, bent towards someone else's intention. The emails, the ads, the scrolling feeds, the stress, the tension, they all have a cost. And the currency is your energy. You pay for every distraction in attention. You pay for every anxious gesture in focus. You pay for every misaligned action with the erosion of your own clarity. But what's worse is this. You often don't even know it's happening. When you neglect your energy field, it doesn't vanish. It becomes porous. It gets filled with what's loudest, not what's true. You start reacting instead of choosing. You begin to feel exhausted for reasons you can't explain. You take on moods that aren't yours, thoughts that aren't yours, urgency that was never meant to be yours. This is the cost of energetic passivity. And your hands, the most powerful instruments of energetic intention, are being used not to protect or direct, but to obey. Every moment spent unconsciously reinforcing someone else's rhythm is a moment you forfeited your own. The hand you use to check your phone in bed before you've even acknowledged your breath. What is it tuning into? What frequency does it anchor you in? The way you clench your fists in frustration, the way you type messages with resentment in your fingers, the way you keep reaching for things that do not nourish you. These are not neutral actions. They are agreements, unspoken rituals that shape your state, your vibration, and your outcomes. And the system counts on it. It's built around your disconnection. It needs your energy to stay fragmented, scattered, unstable. Because fragmented people are easy to influence, easy to market to, easy to guide into loops of distraction where the illusion of control is enough to keep them compliant. You think you're making choices, but your gestures have been automated, conditioned, programmed to respond to stimulus without question. And this is the real danger. Not that you'll be controlled by force, but that you'll never notice it happened. But what if, instead, you began to take your gestures back? What if every time you opened your hand, you opened your awareness? What if every time you pressed your palms together, you signaled to your system that you were coming home to yourself? Not as some mystical performance, but as a quiet rebellion against everything trying to pull you away from your own center. Because that's what conscious gesture really is. It's a statement, a pulse through the field saying, I know who I am. I know what I want. I know what I'm calling in. The field listens, the energy follows, but only if you lead. You cannot afford to remain passive with your power. Not now, not anymore. We are living in a time when energy is the new currency and clarity is the new revolution. Those who learn to master their state, direct their attention, and anchor their intentions will shape the future. Everyone else will be swept up in someone else's storm. Your hands are either tools of creation or conduits of control, and you get to decide which. But doing nothing is still a decision. So the question becomes, how long will you keep leaking your energy into systems that never had your best interest at heart? Because the moment you choose differently, when you shape your gestures, align your intentions, and act from presence, you begin to change not just your energy, but your timeline. You become the one shaping reality, not reacting to it. And that shift, subtle as it is where all true power begins. You've spent your life being told that your power lies somewhere outside of you. that it's something you have to chase, earn, or find. A job title, a bank balance, a status symbol. They sold you the illusion that if you just work hard enough, become likable enough, perform well enough, then maybe, just maybe, you'll feel powerful. But that was never power. That was approval dressed as purpose. That was obedience disguised as success. Real power has been with you the whole time, in your body, in your breath, in your awareness, and in your hands. Your hands are the final frontier. They are the end of the nervous system, but the beginning of creation. Everything you've ever built, touched, shaped, held, or let go of, your hands were there. Every word you've written, every gesture of love or resistance, every boundary drawn or crossed, it all passed through them. And yet, most people go their entire lives using their hands without ever truly understanding what they are. Conductors, antennas, mirrors of your internal state. They don't just act, they transmit. When your thoughts are aligned, your words clear, and your actions rooted in truth, your hands begin to radiate coherence. And that coherence is magnetic. It pulls opportunities, clarity, healing, not because of luck or chance, but because you're no longer broadcasting noise. You're broadcasting signal. That's the difference between living by reaction and living by intention, between chasing life and generating it. You don't need more rituals, you need more presence. You don't need to learn 10 new techniques. You need to master one simple gesture done consciously. That's where the transformation happens. Not in the complexity of the practice, but in the sincerity of the presence behind it. When you press your palms together at the heart and take one intentional breath, the entire system responds. Your mind slows, your breath deepens. The energy around you recalibrates, because your body recognizes what your ego forgot. Ritual is remembrance. Gesture is language. And when spoken fluently, it changes everything. You're not here to escape your life. You're here to embody it, fully, fiercely, consciously. Your hands are the bridge between the unseen and the seen, the thought and the act, the idea and the outcome. When you touch your own heart, you're not just offering comfort, you're creating coherence. When you hold your hands open in stillness, you're not doing nothing, you're preparing to receive. When you move your fingers with awareness, you're tracing new neural patterns, rewriting stories, reclaiming your own signal from the noise. And it doesn't stop with you. Every time you reclaim a gesture, you create space for someone else to do the same. You remind them, without saying a word, that their energy is theirs, that their body is intelligent, that their presence is enough. You become a quiet revolution, one conscious action at a time. Because this is bigger than hands. This is about sovereignty, about returning to the part of you that was never conditioned, never broken, never lost. The part that's always known how to shape energy, speak truth, hold space, and build futures without permission, without apology. And if you've followed this far, if your body's been nodding along, if your breath has slowed even slightly, then you already know. Something ancient is waking up inside you. Something that doesn't need convincing, just remembering. So this is your invitation. Not to follow, but to feel. Not to copy, but to reclaim. To take this knowing into your days, your gestures, your work, your relationships. To bring your hands back online. Not for the sake of ritual, but for the sake of remembering who you are when no one's watching. Because in the end, this isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who you were before the world told you who to be. And the moment your gestures match that truth, the world around you will have no choice but to respond. The second you start living that alignment, you're not just walking a new path, you're shaping it. With every movement, every choice, every breath, every hand. If you haven't joined Insights Academy yet, now is the time. You're not just missing knowledge, you're missing connection. Inside, we share what can't be said here. And for a limited time, you'll also receive a free digital copy of the Kybalion to deepen your understanding of the ancient principles you've just begun to unlock. If this video resonated with you, let us know by commenting, "I understood it."